Welcome, Foil Drive family. Today we have a super cool guest today. It's Rob Pieros. Rob Pierie, actually. Everyone just calls him Piros, but you probably know him from his amazing YouTube account. Piros he's our best team rider at Foil Drive, hands down. He is on the water the most. He's known for doing multiple batteries a day. He tests gear super hard. And if anything's been done on the Foil Drive, it's been done by him. So welcome, Piros. Thanks for coming.
You, thanks, Josh. Yeah, mate. It's always glad to catch up with you, and it was good to catch up with you last weekend too. That was fantastic, eh?
Yeah, we had a really cool weekend. We went up to Somerset Dam, which is up in Queensland, just an hour or hour and a half west of Brisbane. There was a wakeboarding event, and Foil Drive is getting into the wake scene. So Piros and I went up there just to do a bit of research to show off the Foil Drive, and I got to actually spend some really good time with you and hear about your background, which I thought would be really cool to express to our audience here today. So, kind of give us a background into what it was, where you grew up, what you were into when you were young, and how you eventually became Foil Drive's best ambassador and team rider.
Yeah, mate. Well, I was fortunate enough to be born here on the Gold Coast. So, I've been in the Surfers Paradise Surf Club since I was 4 years old. So, down the beach every weekend, my parents, and yeah, very fortunate to do that. So, I got taken out on big surf at a very young age by my brother. I remember one day we swam out and I was probably about 6 or 7, and I don't know, I was about 6 foot, and I started to panic and I was about to cry, and my brother said, "Don't cry," and that was it. That was my introduction to big surf, and then later on I just kept surfing, always water skiing, mad boating, done a lot of boating, and my brother took me, went over my family. I went to when I was pipeline when I was 12 years old with a single fin. And my brother wouldn't let me put a leg rope on because he thought I'd get trapped on the reef. And he goes, if you get flogged, don't swim in, swim out to sea. So first wave over the falls, and I swam out to sea. And he said, don't come in till all the sets are finished. So I stayed out there for like, I don't know, half an hour. And then eventually I swam in, this 12-year-old kid, and there was just a group of people standing around my board. They all thought I drowned, and just sort of picked it up and just walked away. And that's what we do. And I said I was just waiting for the sets to finish. That's what my brother told me to do. So I've had an introduction to big waves at a very early age because of the surf club. And unfortunately, here on the Gold Coast, when we get big waves, it's always wind. Wind and wild weather. So it's always been very tough. But it taught me a lot of things. And when it was like, I loved cyclone swell, especially how we just had Cyclone Alfred, and back in the days when I was still using my arms to paddle, I was one of the very few people that could bash out through the beach break and get out. So, did all that in my younger days, and then also did like lot of water skiing, hell of a lot of water skiing, and I was also water ski racing, and how I got out of that without any major injuries. That was probably the start of my knee replacement about 40 years later. But yeah, pretty well won every major ski race in Australia, and that's getting dragged around 100 miles an hour, and had very few falls, and I was very lucky. But with that too, I also was in the snowboarding in the early 80s with some brothers Nielsen. Paul Nielsen got a Sims Switchblade snowboard. And I said, "What the hell is that?" And they said, they told me what it was. I said, "Here you go snow skiing. You like, take it." So, next thing I know, it perisher, and just trying to just fumbling down, and then straight after that went over to America, and they just hated them. And all the slopes, like you get off the chairlift and they went uphill, like everything now is all groomed and beautiful. So I did a lot of hard yards with the, in the early days with the snowboards as well. So, when the foiling finally came around, anything sort of pioneering, I sort of, wanted to jump on board. I suppose it's a bit like yourself too, Josh, eh?
Yeah, I think it's interesting hearing that background because it sounds like that you were pretty much a trailblazer of most things that you did. And would you say that Aussie culture nearly had a little bit of a macho bravado where you kind of had to show off how hard you were or how fearless you were in those scenarios? Do you think that's kind of what shaped you a little bit?
Oh, look, for sure, the surf club culture, like, when you're young, I was one of the few cadets that never got flushed, so, the seniors. So it was a pretty tough game. But also, Surfers Paradise Surf Club, in its heyday, it had all the top surf lifesavers, like, Trevor Hendy and all the boys. And a lot of the Uncle Toby's guys were there as well. So they all used to live with me. So I used to train with them. And, I wasn't at their level, but I used to hang around those guys a lot. And they're the guys that sort of I grew up with and I'm still friends with today, and that got me over to, like, I did Molokai in the OC6 in like 1990. It's going way back. And then after that, I coached the women's teams for a while. That was like Lisa Curry. Like, we had the team full of Olympians. I've competed with Olympians. And I suppose for myself, it's, it's one doesn't think you're a great foiler, but you've got to judge yourself by your chosen peers, and there's no point in being the best in the group. You'll never improve. You've got to keep striving, and that's like like that time, I went to Marimbula, and I saw it was the first time I met you, and it was all the team riders were there, and Jeremy Wilmot, and like Jeremy's such a big lad, and this is back when I was riding for Cabrina, and I was the only one that had a Cabrina foil, and Jeremy goes, "Oh, can I have a go?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So I gave him 1,000, and mate, I thought he was going to break it, and then you two, I thought I was like, this is going back, I don't know what, 4 years ago now. And I thought I was foiling really well, and I just got schooled, like by you guys. I remember seeing you guys pumping out so hard, and then like we used to do a wave connect. We go, oh, get out! Oh yeah, we're the kings. We can connect one, maybe two waves. You guys were like completely blowing your tails out, and on these small waves, and it was just unbelievable. I just went, wow. I thought, I went from up here to just to back here again. But you know what? The way I've been brought up, I said, I want to foil like that. And like, this is what I say, I'm on a quest and I'm on a journey to try and become the greatest foiler in the world, And mate, I'm just, yeah, you're like, I'm trying and I'm going to do it. And age is not a factor. And I say to people, if you're too old, you've got to try harder. If you're too fat, you've got to lose weight. I mean, it's not, being a big guy isn't an excuse. Like Jeremy Wilmot, like, what's he, 6'3" or 105 kilos or something? Man, he
He'd be
smashes
up,
it.
yeah.
He,
Yep.
he's a unit, and he just smashes it. So, and people just say, "Oh, there's a physical attribute to foiling." Well, no, it's up here, and slowly crawling. I'm getting better and better and better. But yeah, sort of going back from that, like judging yourself by your chosen peers, that comes from the surf club, and we've also got another saying: "You're only as good as your last race." So you can't go. I finished ski racing sort of back in the late '90s, and I finished on a big note. And you say, "Oh, you won all these races," but mate, that's all behind me now, and you can't say, you're still a champion of it, because I'd probably get up there and die at bloody 80 miles an hour, let alone 100 miles an hour. So yeah, it's and it's good, and like I say, judge yourself by your chosen peers. That's why I'm surrounding myself with guys like you, Josh. And as I said to you at the wake park, not the wake park, the dam out there the other day, just the way you punted the foil up before you came into the wake, it made such a difference for an early jolt and a push. And I was doing that yesterday out at the alley as well. It was pretty flat, and I was doing the same thing. And now I've introduced that to my downwinding, my surfing. So you pick up stuff by foiling with better foilers. Don't you'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
I 100% agree. And I actually read that when I was a grommet. I had one of, back when probably kids used to read books, I had a Taj Burrow, like 101 tricks or something. And I remember reading it. And one thing that really resonated with me was he said, surf as many waves as you can around the world, because it's just going to open up your horizons of how to surf different waves and different ways to approach it. And that really resonated with me, and I still hold that to this day, that like you try and surf as many different waves or downwind as many different spots. And I think that also translates to the people that you foil with, and exactly what you just explained. If you're foiling with different people all the time or getting to meet all these different things, you're just a sponge and you pick up things that they don't even know. Like, that's something that I didn't even really know that I was doing, and you've seen that. And that was within like the first 5 minutes that we were foiling together the other weekend, and you picked up on that, and you go, "Oh, that helps. That makes so much sense, and that helps." And like you brought that now into your foiling library, and I'm definitely like that with everything too. I've been fortunate enough where I've chased around the world, all these different spots, and hanging out with different people, and I'm the same. I just sponge off them and how they rig up their gear or why they rig up their gear, and then just bring that back home and try to do my own take on that. So I think it's important to be open-minded, which I think a lot of foilers are. Foilers are open-minded people.
Oh, 100% too. A lot of people get stuck in their ways. They get stuck in their brands, and they won't try. I'm constantly like, I remember once I was out at the alley once, and there's just this young guy out, and he was just getting launched. Yeah, this is back in the old paddling prone days, and I just watched him for half an hour just get launched every single wave. And I paddled over and I said, mate, go move your mast back, and he didn't do it. So another half an hour goes past, and he got launched like about another 5, 10 times. I paddled over, and I was just like, I was like a Hawaiian local. I said, go in and move that mast back now. And he went in and he moved it back, came out, caught a wave, and got straight up. And he goes, oh my God. And I said, well, why didn't you listen to me an hour ago? It's I just go. And I like, a lot of people, you probably get the same thing too. I give a lot of advice out to people, and they go, I can't do this, I can't do that. I go, look at your foil setup, you got to change, you got to do this. Like a lot of people can't afford it, and they started out on the real cheap stuff, and they go out and they go, rightio, and then you see them a month later, and I say, how you going? And he goes, oh, I'm still can't pump properly. He goes, I didn't get that foil you told me to get. I found this other one and I got this. And I just go, well, see you later, mate. Like, you can only help people so much. But, I sort of love helping people and learning. But, in the early stage, Josh, it was like, I was kiting. Like, I started kiting when I was, I didn't start kiting till I was like 50. And then I only been kiting, 2.5, 3 months. And I walked into Surf FX, and they had a Cabrina switchblade, and that was this, not switchblade, something like a Cabrina, I can't remember the name, it was something that did everything. And I said, what's that? And they said, oh, it's a foil, kite foil. And I said, I'll get one of those. And they go, but you can't even kite properly yet. And I said, I'll learn to kite foils, I'm learning to kite, that's, and I just didn't because I'll keep going, I'll grind at something, I'll grind and I'll grind and I'll grind, and there's no one to ask. And then in that stage, that's where we saw Kai Lenny with that Nash and, the foil on it. And I went, oh my God, that's unbelievable. And you couldn't, even then, you couldn't buy a foil in Australia for at least another year after that. So I just got that kite foil board and I gaffer taped it to a sup. And we went out, this is like, it was 10 years ago now. And everyone's just gone, come on. So I got a guy from Surf FX, and then I rang around a couple of the best kiters on the Gold Coast. I said, let's give this a go. And then, mate, it was it. We were out, and that was the start, hey? That was probably the first nut foil in Australia. And it's Cabrina Double Agent, it was called. And if you go back to my very early videos, and, mate, and then we only had kite foils, like 1.1 metre mass on these death foils, and I'm trying to prone them. And that's like, if everyone sees me with my shirt off and all that, I'm just covered in scars, mate. I was just getting sliced, and everybody goes, oh, and when we first started to get it together, they go, I want to come foiling with you. And I go, well, bring your own Band-Aids. And because you're going to get cut. And then, then I bought I think I got a foil from China or somewhere, and and we didn't know anything about the boards either, then we started supping. Everyone had they only had two, it was Nash and then the Go Foil. And what's it called? The Kai. Was it Kai? Kai Go Foil? Yeah. Mate, and to Alex Agria's credit, mate, he's the one that he bridged the gap from the kiting and the wing foiling, the windsurf foiling, and introduced it to the surfing. So, but we all had Tuttle boxes. So, imagine you don't know anything about a board and you've got to put a Tuttle box in a board, so the prone boards had to be like that thick. And then where do you put it? We had no idea. So, mate, I remember when I first started proning, I went down to Surfers Beach 2 weeks straight, every morning, every afternoon, and I never got to my feet and surfed away. And I just kept going and going and going over the falls, over the falls, over the falls, over the falls. Launch, 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 taco, 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 smack, smack, bang, bang, just come back bleeding. And then after 2 weeks, I got up and went, shit, I'm up. And only then, once I started riding, then I could feel the mast too far forward or too far back. So, that's how I had to start. And, you couldn't even buy a foil in a shop, like somewhere like Surf FX, they had nothing, so it must have been the same with you guys. Like everything had to come from overseas at the start for your
Oh,
foils.
I'm so far behind you. Like I started only 5 6 years ago. You started sounds like over 10 years ago. I was
Yeah, yeah.
like I was nowhere near that. Like by the time I was learning, we had foils that completely were made for the general public. Like you were pioneering that stuff. Like I don't even get. I'm trying to understand where you got that determination to try do this thing that potentially couldn't even be done. Like there was one guy who made it publicized, like Kai Lenny, he could do it, but like it didn't mean that everyone could do it. Like were you just such a knucklehead that you're like, I'm getting this, I don't care.
Well, but that's what foiling is. I suppose it's just I'm just determined, mate. It's anything I do is the same with this. Ski racing's a pretty savage thing too. Like you can't. You've really got to be a hungry person to do well at that. I mean, if you're out there and you're getting scared or something like that, you're going to fall off and you're going to get hurt. So when you're going fast, you love it. You're getting off on it, and you just want to go faster. So it's I had just adopt that same attitude to foiling, and I just was determined to do it. Because I remember in my, you know, um, in my athletics days, and especially when I was competing to get in the teams to go to Molokai for the outriggers. You got to remember we had some of the best ski paddlers, mal paddlers, guys who'd been going over to Hawaii their whole lives. These are guys I had to compete against, and mate, if you weren't full of confidence, you showed any sign of weakness, you weren't in that team because it's a tough race. It goes for a long time. You get tired, you get a little bit seasick, or you get hurt, or something like that. You have to keep going, and it's just a churn. So, yeah, it's just from that why I did it. Got into the foiling, but and then we did. We got the. It was the same with the supping too. Like I think 2009. I saw it was Billy Watson at Burleigh Beach. What's that? There's some guy out there standing up with a paddle, and that was like 2008. So 2009, we all got into it, and then we did the first ever sup, like a full feature film, Living the State One over in Papua New Guinea. It was insane, and we went over to New Guinea, and we went right out to the northern province where nobody had actually done a surf camp. You weren't allowed. And where we went to this place, we were the first people ever to go. The surf camp got built. They were still filling in bomb craters from World War II to build the huts. There were still holes in the ground, and there was a sunken frigate and a submarine around there, and it was unbelievable. And even back then in 2009, I think all the villagers, they were still paying like a little tax to the American government because the Johnson tax, that was President Johnson during the war, and they was near the end of the war, and it was for the Americans protecting them. It was the Japanese that actually occupied them where we were, and the Americans flushed them out. So, and that was amazing doing that, with the SUPs too. So again, like you go there and we start the SUPs, and oh mate, the angst for the SUPs in the Gold Coast. Oh mate, Burleigh board riders, mate, it's just like you'd have the same at Maroubra crew and all that. They were just hated, and that was like I say, I was just pioneered that, and we did all that, and then we went from the supping to the sup foiling and the prone foiling, and like nobody liked us. Nobody liked the sups, nobody liked the sup foilers and the prone foilers. Now I've gone to the foil driving. I just seen it. But yeah. So, but the foil driving now, like even with all that, I've had so much fun. I've done everything. I've been over the world. My snowboarding, I was talking about. I was doing, we'd go up high, go ice climbing, my snowboard on my back, my ice axes, and done everything like that. And that's sort of like that was all my single days. Get married. I actually got to a stage. I never thought I'd make it to 30. I thought I'd sort of just get rubbed out doing something I loved. And that's when you actually get rid of the fear of dying or hurting yourself. When you actually get that out of your body, you stop getting hurt and you start making things. You know, so it's amazing. You know, once you get that fear out of the way, and that's the same with like Cyclone Alfred. You know, I'm out there. I'm the only foiler out there. I'm out on a four drive, and it's like 12 foot. Probably it was probably some 15-foot waves way out the back. And mate, I was just like, I'm going out, and then I'm 100, 200 meters out past the shark nets, and it's breaking. It's absolutely breaking. I got the 720 on, and just chewing up, coming down, chewing up, coming down, and I go, oh, and it's like there's a sets, and it's like a set of five, and I've just gone, just take this one. You don't have to get the biggest set. I've just gone, you don't have to get the biggest set, and and it was, to the full drive's credit, it was insane, and I was coming all the way. I was going all the way from Sapper to Kira. I was outside everyone. I didn't go inside one person, and if I got one super wide, I come up to I passed all the surface. I was still 50, 80 meters out. I was even outside the step off crew. I was coming in that wide, coming in hot. But it was all the step off guys, all those skis running around. They were sort of keeping the wake out of the surface, but they're putting more through me. But that was 44 skis, 44 out there. And it's just mental. I was the
Insane.
only foiler. And then eventually Adam Bennett's turned up. So that was it, just me and him. It was insane. And it was just, and when that swell just started to build, it was just so good. It's crazy, hey.
I think
Just
this
absolutely
is
crazy.
an interesting point. I think a lot of the foil drive community aren't used to, experiencing 12 to 15 foot waves. Maybe they haven't even experienced what the superbank looks like what the wave that you're talking about right now. Can you kind of walk us through exactly how you prepare for something like that? Like what you're doing is not normal. Like you're probably the 0.01% that do this. So I'm just interested to hear, I know about your background now. Like, you're so accustomed to this type of, being out in the elements and what the Mother Nature can throw at you. But I just kind of want to hear from a foil drive perspective how you've set your gear up, what leash you're wearing, like how do you set your foil drive up? Like, are you expecting to get one wave out of like one session, or are you getting 50 waves? Like, just give us a full rundown, please, Rob.
Well, like that time when I saw you and Jeremy at Marimbula, that was just prior to my second shoulder reconstruction. And then I remember watching you guys and getting really despondent, and then I just paddled over towards the bar mouth. The tide was coming in. I just slowly drifted away, so nobody saw me go away because my shoulder was just. It was just like. Then I walked along the beach and I said, I can't believe that. And I said, you've almost got to start again. So after that, I got my shoulder redone, and then that was, and then I get over stuff pretty quickly. But my prone days were coming to an end, and then sort of the time went on. I heard about the forward drive, and I was actually riding for Flightboard at the time, and one of the co-owners of Flightboard was also my sponsors through JP and Cabrina. So I sort of, there was a bit of a thing there. So, the carrot had been waved to me for the forward drive thing. But anyway, cut a long story short, that the flight thing ended. So I just jumped on the flight board wagon, and then that was
The foil drive wagon, you mean?
oh, sorry, the four drive wagon, yeah, and then the four drive wagon, and I was just coming out of the I had another shoulder reconstruction after that, and it was only like at 8 weeks, and then I said, oh, so we went out towing, right, at 8 weeks. My mate Murray, we'll just go out. It was huge. Anyway, I got flogged. It's at TOS. I fell forward, and those times you're going to get hit by the foil. You just know. And I said, I'm falling in front of it. So I've covered up, and the foil hit me so hard in the head it broke my hand. And it wasn't that bad, but I got washed up at the beach, and then the ski got washed up. Had to pull out the broken hand. That was okay. It wasn't like didn't need surgery. Just had to get it put into a cast. But that's when I went to Marimbula last time, 2 years ago almost, and then that's when I got my foil drive. So I had my hand in a cast, and that's when I did my first 10 battery day, because I said this was just unbelievable. I went from, I was there like at dawn and I came in at dark, and all I was doing just coming in and having a drink and a hamburger and just going back out. And Ben's just saying, "You want another battery?" I said, "Come on." He goes, "No, someone else got to use them." I said, "Come on." I said, "I'll make it 10." And he goes, "Are you serious?" He goes, "This will be your 10th battery." And he goes, "Yes, yes." So here you go. So mate, that's where it all started. And I said, right, this is where I'm going. So I was on a big chunky board, and I was writing. I think it was on my code. Like I couldn't even get up on the 850. I couldn't get up on the 98. I had the 1130, and I had this big chunky board, and I was riding around on that. And then I pretty well soon realised that I was getting onto bigger and bigger waves. You can't really control those really big lifty foils on big waves. So that I said that's when I started, and I started thinking to myself, said, you know what, this thing's going to replace my jet ski one day, and winding the clock forward to now, it has. So like I sold my ski last week, had it 14 months, 6 hours. That was it. Unbelievable, brand new Yami sitting on my pontoon. So like getting back to answer your question though. So yeah, I've been trying to. It's taken time. I had to make the boards sort of a better shape. We've been experimenting, with narrower boards and dropping the volume down, and still kept the volume in. And I think like what you guys at Amos, you guys were the first one that really breached it, and you took the volume out, and that's we've sort of taken a leaf out of that book. We're bringing the boards now more down with Dale, so you're still going to be able to do the start, and that's why the trenches come into it and everything like that. But my whole end game is to ride big waves. But not only that, I'm doing everything on one board now. So whether it's wake foiling, wake thieving, wake foiling, small 1-2 foot surf, 10 foot surf, whatever, doing it all on one four drive board, because I now can get down onto smaller foils. And to make myself get on a smaller foil, I sold the 1150 code.
11:30.
I sold it, so I couldn't use it. I got rid of it because I did want to get back onto the bigger foils. So, and this is pre all your R wings as well that came out. So, yeah, so that's sort of my plan. The leg rep I use an 8mm one from mate of mine, Vasco from eFoil GC. It's made for the eFoils, so it's a tough thing. It's just a super coiled leg rep, very short. They can take a ragdolling, and because I've had a few. The problems I have with longer leg ropes is sometimes they go around the prop and you get a little nick and you don't notice. So, you have a little nick in your leg rope, and that's probably the only time. So I generally retire. My leg ropes I only keep for like 3 months, and then I just turn them over because it's too big a loss. It's one thing to have you break your leash on a surfboard, but to do it on a 12, 13 kilo four drive board, it's one thing to be outside, but to lose it to come through. So, yeah, so that's sort of the main thing I do for it. And the other thing too is we've changed the connection. We've opened the window up on the deck of the board. So we used to have like a window in the middle. We've now made a huge window where my hand goes. So the remote's there. So when we do the powered duck dives, and when I was over in Fiji about a year and a half ago, and I was out at Cloudbreak, yeah, that was pretty wild. That was big. That's nasty. And that's where you pay a heavy price at that place. And so what I was doing powered duck dives and just corkscrewing out the back of the wave, and the crew on the Tavarua boat were just like giving me standing ovations. But it was pretty amazing that what you can actually achieve on the four drive. And so once I did that, and then another set was just coming through, and like if I'd been on a SUP or I'd been on a shortboard, I would have just been absolutely annihilated. But just being able to belly drive away from that, away from the peeling lip, I soon realised that this is opening up a whole new world of places you can ride these things. So so I did a lot of time in Fiji, and I rode a lot of places, a lot of big waves where people I was so far away from the surface. That was the amazing part. And then, like you couldn't even tow around this place because of the jet ski wake, but I could follow drive. Everyone was really cool about it. When I was driving back to the place I was staying at the beach house, this Australian guy rang me and he goes, were you out at Cloudbreak by any chance on a four drive? I said, yeah. I said, how do you know? And he said, oh, one of my American friends was on the Tavarua boat, and he just said, he said they weren't laughing at you. They were just laughing at you, just bravery and just getting, because I was getting launched. I was breaching so hard, and I had a photographer there, had a drone guy, and I was trying my hardest to get pitted without dying, but mate, the risk was just too great, hey. So, but Fiji, I mean, the four drive opened up just everything. The downwinding's just insane, and you've got all these reef breaks where the waves don't break, and and all these new spots of just opening up. So you know about all those, wouldn't you, Josh? What's the place that's right at the other end of God, it's up near Castaways. That one.
Yeah, there's another little reef passage there that's kind of it's
Cool.
like a lot of crew are going there now, but it's just at that little bit of a drive. But you're
Yeah.
guaranteed when you go there that there's no one else there besides people that are on jet skis and foils, really.
Yeah,
So
because and I was like, it was quite amazing because the jets and even the guys getting towed because they had to tow back out around the channel, and like I was getting waves and I was just like essing all the way through, and then I was just driving back out and just going boom and back. So I was still even doing 2, 3, 4 to 1 to the towing guys on the four drive, was just amazing. It's just all you need is lots of batteries. So you just need lots of batteries. But yeah, so that was my first overseas trip, and I was pretty lucky that there was some batteries there in Namutu. So everybody watching this too, those batteries aren't available for the public. I've had 10,000 phone calls saying, "How do I get hold of those batteries?" They're actually owned by the island now, and if you want to use them, you have to stay there. So which is well worth doing. But then again, the four drive. It's opened stuff up now because Josh, how hard it is to get a jet ski in Fiji. It's almost impossible, isn't it?
you can get jet ski, but it always comes at a price.
Yeah.
I think what's cool now is I think when you did that trip, the travel battery wasn't around yet, so there's the option of just bringing a battery now, which is pretty cool. Like,
Oh, for sure, mate. Like the travel batteries just changed everything, and it's just the way I've sort of look at everything now. Like four driving has actually changed my life. It really has. It's a life changing experience. I know it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but that's all. I've got my job, I've got my family, but my four drive stuff never leaves the car. I've got 7 HP batteries in it. So. And the other thing too, I'll tell you what, the HPs and the HP batteries and the motors, and that's been another big thing because now all I ride is like the code 720. And that's my daily rider. And I couldn't ride that 6 months ago. So now with the new batteries and the new motor, it's made that all important too. And then if you could get up on those small foils on the older batteries, it really ripped the guts out of them. So this is I'm still getting my best time is I've got an hour out of a 720. That's a small foil, and that can go down to 45 minutes, depends how rough it is. But that's pretty good, and I can still flat water start, which is the most important thing because you want to ride these big waves, and people think, oh, you can just chip in. It's not like that at all. You've got to go way, 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 way out, away from the waves, and you need to get up, and you need to come in at an angle to get on these things. There's no chipping in and doing the drop. It's just, it's hard enough on a surfboard. It's hard enough on a foil board. It's even harder on a four drive board. So you need to sort of head out, turn and come back in or come in from the side. So you need to be able to get up. You need to be able to flat water start. So that's why the board design is so important. Obviously, the foils have just advanced so much in the last couple of years, and especially foils like the codes and that, they've just got so much lift for their size, and it's a good controllable foil at speed. They've got a great speed range. So now all that's come about. Just anything's possible. I mean, we go out, we surf pressure waves in the seaway. It can be blowing 20 knot onshore, and you still go out and have fun. It's just a whole world, a whole new world of doing it, and you don't have to worry about your skiing. You don't have to worry about all your safety gear and everything like that. And you just go from there. So you must have found the same thing too, Josh, with all that.
Yeah, I'm honestly like I've been using I do all types of disciplines of foiling, and foil drive is just another discipline that I like to do on special condition based things. And I've been finding that I've been using the foil drive more and more when it's bigger, because I
Yeah,
actually really enjoy prone foiling when it's small. And I like doing kind of high performance foiling in the pocket, whitewater hits. And then I've actually been dedicating my foil driving to when it's big and you're kind of riding mountains as well. And, the conditions are too big for a lot of crew, or the beach might be a bit unruly where um, the surfers are always out of position or whatever. And because you are your own little um, motorized unit, you can kind of get wherever you need to be within seconds. So you're never missing a set. Um, and I find like on those days where it is a bit bigger, there's not as many crew out there. So I really enjoy foil driving when you've kind of got your own playground to yourself. I really dislike foil driving when it's busy. Like yeah, I'm not into it, but that's just
no,
me.
it's the same here. I'm very disciplined with that too, and I'm sort of hard on the people around me too. You just don't need to be near anyone, and and we're just writing stuff. I mean, it's just admittedly, it'd be great to peel through, but in some places, but the Gold Coast is just a zoo. Snapper, you think, oh, geez, I'm surfing at Snapper. Well, we're nowhere near the surfers. We are so wide. Um, we are just so wide, and it's the same with everywhere else, even on the beach breaks now, we go out like a lot of the times. And then, the other thing that's been great for me, because, I've done the sup downwind, but, like I'm only like, a C grader as far as the sup foiling goes. And, but now, on the fall drive, like, I go out with the A team, and then, and again, you learn so much watching these guys. Hey, like I go out with Benny Tardrew and all the guys, and Tim, Craig, and Marcus, Guy from Surf Effects. They're all guns, and it's just insane how fast they go. But reading the water, and this is why I will still keep subfoiling, because your vision. Well, this is just second nature to you, but I take people out, and they're quite good forward drivers, and then within 1 minute they're like 100 meters behind me, and so like obviously I've picked up a lot of skill doing it. But then again, if I go out with the A team, they go, okay, we're all gonna wait, and then like they have to paddle out, so I just get up on the forward drive, I just gas it and just go, and I get as big as lead as I can get, and I go, I'm finally gonna win today, and they always mow me down, and I can't believe how they come past me so fast. So there's still a lot to learn, but the forward drive, what it's done, it lets me do that, which is just amazing, and it's taught me so much, and from that it's helped my surfing, and especially surfing big waves. Like you get on earlier before it's a wave, like it's like a swell, and then you do some swerving, carving, and you look for those little pockets, those hills and those valleys, and you drop in, because if you come into these big waves too late, the drops just like it's just horrifying, isn't it, Josh? Like the weight, the extra weight of the forward drive dropping down those big waves, the inertia. Um, it's just, yeah, it scares it. It can scare the shit out of you. You must have found that, hey?
Yeah, I really like having my pod so close to the board, because I we don't have an integrated mast yet with code. So when we dip our pod, you can really feel it wanting to suck your board back down to the water, and you don't want to touch down when you're going 40 kilometers an hour down a 10 footer. Like you want to make sure that you're on that middle of the mast and you're in control. But usually when it's big swell like that, there's like what you said, there's usually wind. So there might be wind chop going through the wave, and you might be bombing down a wave, but then there's a bump coming through the wave that you need to go up and over. Like it's pretty technical stuff.
Yeah, and just and I do a lot of videos, and I get to watch, I get to watch and critique myself, and then I can actually see that pod contact a lot. So I'm actually going from, I've got a 15 centimeter integrated, but as you know, I had like a little bit of a adapter failure. So
Come on, tell us about it. Tell us
yeah,
about
so I had like, I'm not going to say the brand of adapter, because it wasn't a product fault. My adapter was 6 months old. I use these adapters so much, so I've got a no limits integrated mast with an axis head, and I've got a code fitting for it, and I've got a lift fitting for it, and then I pretty well only ride code. So, if you surf twice a day, that foil comes off twice a day. So you add that up over 6 months, and then, I don't surf twice a day every day, but I could quite easily do, 10 sessions a week, easy. So that means that falls, on and off 10 times a week. So you multiply that. So it'd easily come off 100 times. And I could see there was a bit of fatigue there. And I should have retired it in retrospect, but I replaced the helicoils. And then I put it back in. And what Josh, you were saying before, like how you like proning, you like to attack the foam ball that a bit more. I was talking to Mark Rennie and I said, we've got to start attacking the foam a bit more. So I was at the alley, mucking around. I just went for a little stupid little backhand RE off it's only like a little 1-2 foot wave. And I came down backwards and I stalled and I hit the tail backwards on the bank and it popped it ripped the screws out.
Oh.
And it was only in waist deep water and I couldn't see it. And it was just relentless to break. And then Mark came over and he saw it. He saw it and he dove off and then it got washed off into that gutter at Lacey's Lane. And I looked for ages, but we've still got a bit of seasickness from that Cyclone Alfred. So the gutters have got a lot of sediment in it and there's just no finding it. But I went there again yesterday and it was a bit cleaner, sun was out, and I was out on axis foil, so I can't ride my code at the moment. So I just had this really glidey axis foil and I was going on these little right-hand waves and I was looking down, going from the bank to the gutter, and I thought I saw it, so I dove down, and then I said, oh, it's rolled on its side, and I just lunged forward to grab it, and just as I got about to grab it, I realised it was a stingray, and I was about to grab its tail. And I just had to pull my hand back. I was so close to grabbing it on its tail. Yeah, and I just went, no, so I haven't got it back. Anyway, it's out there on social media, everyone. So it's a code 720S, medium fuse, 142. And if you see my last two videos, that I'm just absolutely ripping on that stuff foil. It's so sad. It's just like it's like going to a wake and they put up all the photos of the person. It's like I'm sitting there editing the day after, and I go, "There's my beautiful foil. It's just gone." So so look, with the adapters, look, they do work, but they have a lifespan. That's why I don't want to bag the brand. Shit wears out. Things wear out, and it's the same if you've got a dud bolt that goes into your mast and it's not too good, but you just leave it there. You need to do something about it. Don't do it. And then when it finally rips out, don't just go back to the manufacturer and just say, listen, your product's shit. So it's my fault. Like, I work in the aluminium industry. I saw the oxidization. I should have known better. I've retired the other one now, but I'm not going to use the adapters anymore. I'll just go back to the code mask. And going what Josh said as well, now we're talking about the 15, like everyone's got the 25 to 15 centimetre leads. I'm actually going to a 12, and it's for the exact same reason what Josh is talking about, because I get to see on my videos, I actually get to see how many times that pod touches. Now, another good discipline too, like watching Josh, he rides higher than me. Like, you need to ride as high as you can. So, if you're a low rider and that pod, and look, it's a bit of a fallacy that thinking you need to have your motor down low to go into choppy water. It's actually incorrect. Josh has actually got a custom one, and it's 9 centimetres, and it's on his Amos trench board. And, we had to travel about 1.5K in fresh water to this pontoon boat last weekend, and I got to ride it, and it was just beautiful. So it just skips across the water, doesn't it, Josh? Really efficiently.
Yeah, I'm even looking at maybe going shorter and seeing just where the limit is type thing, because it's fully still works. You just got to make sure that the board's on the water, and
it's actually a battery saver, because it's the board can make a little bit of contact with it as well. So I talked to the boys about getting a 9, and they said, I'd have to make, like, they're so busy, so they're sending me a 12, and I'll put that on my code mast, and we'll just go from there. But sort of down the track. But my nephew Lance, he gets all my broken bits and pieces, Lance Pirie, and he put one on, and he's almost got the prop chopping the lead. It's so low, the way he just set it up. And it works. It still works. So, everyone out there, like, don't think you have to do it. I mean, if you want to cruise around and you want to teach people and stuff like that, but if you're pretty serious about it all, you want the pod as high as you can get it, definitely as close as you can to the board. So like I'd definitely order it with the 15, and then down the track you probably go to a 12. The 12 might be a bit scary to some people. It does, depending on the core of your mast, where the pod goes. So the thicker your mast is, the lower the pod will come close to the board. The thinner your mast is, like this, it'll actually just move up probably about another 3/4 of an inch or so. So if you're thinking about the a 20 or a 15 and you got something like a no limits mast, I would 100% go the 15, because it's going to actually end up at 17, even a 15 centimeter lead. So that's something to consider. And then, like the trench boards, I think also too, the trench boards, it makes it even more efficient so you can get the motor down even closer to the board. And I was talking to Josh about this too, because the actual trench, the prop weight going out, regardless what brand of board, it actually turns it into like a prop tube. So the driving force of the water going out is actually getting directed. So it's like a bit of a jet. So that's another plus on the trench. Like they seem to be. You find it's your wave. When you're chasing down a wave, Josh, you find your wave speed's picked up a bit.
Do you mean like when you're motoring on a swell just before you get
And you're
to?
trying to run it. You're trying to run it down to climb over.
Um, I haven't noticed that. No, I
Yeah,
guess I'm very much once I start feeling myself on a downhill of a swell, I'll always get on foil and just try pump my way down it instead of
yeah,
continuing the motor. That's just my
yeah,
technique.
yeah. Well, that's what you did on that wake, and I've started doing that as well. So yeah, it's a good thing. So yeah, but the board design, like that latest thing we've done with this semi trench thing, the half depth trench. I don't know where that's going to go with that. Like Paul Cooper, I'd just blame him for that. But I think, we've had pretty good results with it. I mean, we're definitely not going to put it in production. Dale's not going to put it in production, but it just goes to show, like we're miles from the end of where we're going to be, hey, with board shapes and things like that. And I think I know four drive is constantly, the R&D going in is insane. And it's only going to improve, and it's such a great brand for that. Like we've already got the HP battery and the HP motor, which is just so good. It just sets it apart from. There's a lot of people that tried to copy them and come out, and they're just basically, you've got to remember the Gen 2 was was out on the water for 2 years before it was released to the public. So all these other brands just popping up, and it hasn't even been. It's barely been tested, and they just go out and instantly they've all got issues. Instantly all got issues. So that's the thing. You can't just see something like this and say I'm going to build one and make it better. It's impossible. And Paul and the boys, like Paul is such a smart man. He's so onto it. He's so clever the way he's done this, and they're such a great bunch of guys too. And it's a really good community. So they listen to everything. They don't get sort of headstrong about stuff. They take on advice. They send me everything to me they can that I can try and break, and I generally do a lot of the early stuff. So I've just like great. About once every few months I send back a graveyard of broken parts. But that's all for it's getting out there for everybody else so it doesn't happen to you.
Yeah, you've got a pretty tight relationship from what I've heard. You're pretty much on the phone back and forth with Paul and Ben most days, right? Just always
Yeah,
shooting the shit and trying to see where you can make things better or what you've found by because they realistically know that if they send you a product, you're out on the water for at least 2 hours a day testing it every day.
yeah,
So it's like that R&D, like that being able to get the feedback instantly. And you guys are so lucky on the Gold Coast. Like you guys always have waves or winds, so like you can
yeah,
pretty much test it. And you live on a canal, so even flat water, like you can test it in every scenario instantly, like every day. So it's how do you compete with that? Honestly, how do you compete with that? Like it's
yeah,
just, and we've got such a big team now throughout the world. Like I still call you our best team rider because you are just riding the most, but then you got people doing this like in Hawaii or in California, and the water's different everywhere in the world. And if we get like a kind of a anonymous um, like a consensus of kind of feels, I think we're kind of on the right track of going where we want to go.
Oh, for sure. And I'm just so this year. I'm just, I just feel like I don't know. There's something magical about this year, but this year's going to be my year. This year I'm going to get barreled and I'm going to get it filmed. I'm going to do it. I'm dead set going to die trying. It's one of my little catch cries is victory or death, and like I'm not scared of dying trying to do it. So I'll, that's one thing that's on my list. But I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to Hood River this year. Oh, mate, that place is just mental. I remember, like I said, I did my first downwind and I went screaming past you and I went, that can't be right. What am I doing wrong? It's a different wave. It's a pressure wave. You don't leave it. You stay in the pocket. And again, I said, I went past you and I dropped back and I just watched you and you're just doing these figure eights. Just was just sick. And you're like this 5 foot face just in these valleys and it's a different wave energy and you ride the foil differently and then finally, you get all your mates on Instagram and Facebook and all this, and you see all these other team riders, but to actually get there in one spot, and then to actually see them do those tricks you see on Instagram, to actually see it live is just mental. Like I just lost my shit at the that wake. It was what was his name again, Josh? The guy that did the backflip in front of me and then did
Noah
the
Flegel.
mate. I was on one wake, he was on the other side. And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm ripping." I'm just going like this, and then he's done this backflip, and it's like he was 20 feet in the air, and he's just landed it, and I've just got, and the wake was like really high, it's about 5 foot high, and he's gone down. I said, "Well, no one could land that," and then he just stands up, I'm going what? And then he goes up, and he just this is another one, and he throws in a Superman, and I was just screaming my head off, going, "Fuck no!" I just said that was in to see it live. And the guy's skill, the power he's got, you wouldn't even think it's possible. You could actually generate that much, you could boost like that. It was insane, So I think we haven't even scratched the surface yet on where falling's going to go now. I remember, when wingdinging first came out, they said, you'll never be able to ride waves, you'll never be able to jump. Like, wow, how wrong was that? They were saying, well, how long has winging been around? Like 5 years, something like that?
Mm-hmm.
So it was, that was the other two. I also was one of the first guys in Queensland to have a wingding, and there was a downwind race on, and I could barely wingding, but the only way I could get going was to downwind, and so that's how I came in third in the race because all I had to do was just go straight. It was just go straight downwinding. So I love downwinding, especially on the wingdings. If you go back again, you go back to my Instagram and all that. So I've got tons and tons and tons of videos. Like I really loved winging, but I don't do it anymore. It all just collects dust. I got some really nice gear, but even if it's blowing 20 knots, I'm out on the fall drive with all the wingdingers. Catching the same waves, doing the same thing, and my rough water riding now is it just doesn't bother me. I'm so balanced and like my setup's so good. My foils, like the code foils are so good. The boards are so good. My balance, I had my knee replaced. So my knee's really good. And it's changed. I realised talking to you about that, Josh, because I had a dud knee for so long, I've been falling off my front leg a lot. I didn't even realise it till I got back in the water way too early with my new knee. But now it's actually really good, and I can actually bend, both knees together, and it's made a huge difference. And again, that's watching you too, Josh. Like, you know, when you surf with us, we think we're smashing pretty hard, getting pretty tight in our cutbacks, but you come way back further, way back more into the critical section, and you're way more compressed the way you surf because obviously uh, you're a very, very good surfer in your day. You still are. But, that's reflecting on how you ride your four drive now.
Thank you. Thanks, Piros. I
Mate, you shred. You shred.
I think your little setup there at I guess you call it your local Currumbin.
Yeah.
Um, that's I thought Watergoes is the prone heaven and Currumbin's kind of the foil drive heaven, isn't it? It's just made for it. Like what you
Yeah,
said,
it is.
it's like there's no one there that can tell you off because it's a seaway for vessels to get out. So they're never
Yeah.
going to ban foil driving there. And then,
No.
like, there's an amazing surf wave right hard up against the point, but just wide of it, there's a sandbank that kind of only breaks here and there every so often that surfers don't want to surf because it's so inconsistent, but it's perfect for the foil drive. And it just
Yeah.
runs all the way into deep water. Like, it's perfect.
Yeah. You just got to put up with the fishing boats, the jet skis, and the surf boats and the clubby skis. But that's like what we call the zoo. So, but you get used to it all too. And I suppose, the boat wakes don't bother me. If like when you're towing, you got to deal with your own jet ski wake. If there's 2 or 3 skis out there, like a lot of people can't foil through that, and that's always that's the hardest thing too. Like tow foiling, you can take a really good foiler, or somebody even just an average foiler, but you take them out and the actual driving around part, like getting back out or hunting for a wave, is actually harder than the foiling itself, hey Josh? Because you've got to deal with the wakes and the chop and everything like that.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with that for
Yeah,
sure.
and it's another skill set. So what happens? You end up taking your mate out, and he's falling off before he's even getting on the wave. But we're actually going out now, so we're like the same place I've towed my whole life for like the last 20, 30 years. Now we're taking my boat out, anchoring it, just dropping the batteries in and going boom. Or we just go from the Seaway. Now we've got the new HPs. We're going out and we're hitting the bommy on that. So, um, you know, it's a little bit risky, but, people say what happens, when you break. I've had 2 major failures on the first, I just had a fuck up on a downwind. I was just, all the chop was wrong, the wind was wrong. It's pretty early in my piece. And I basically tore my battery up. And when I realised I was down low to about 20%, I was going to turn to come in, but I couldn't get a run. So I had probably about a 1.5 kilometre paddle, and another time I had a remote fault for about the same too. So I've had 2 big paddles. So, if you want to be out that far, you've got to be able to paddle in, and which I can, which is no worries. I could swim in from there. Um, that's just my advice. Anyone wants to do the big downwinds, you don't. You still need a board you can paddle, hey Josh. You can't go getting out there on a 20-litre board.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's really important to always start small. Like, just start with a 1 kilometer downwind or a 2 kilometer
Yeah,
downwind. Like, so there's plenty of battery just in case anything goes wrong. Or if you want, you can just motor the way back up to the start. Even if you don't have those upwind skills to stand up and go upwind, you can just lay on your belly and go upwind for a kilometer or two. Like, it might take 20 minutes, but you'll get there.
yeah. Well, that's how we did it at Hood River as well too. So it's a skill set, but that's the best, probably one of the best things about fall driving. We're talking to beginners that they can do downwinders. So imagine trying to be a beginner doing a sup downwinder. I mean, that's the hardest
Yeah.
foil discipline, not just on Earth, in the whole universe. To learn. It's just people don't realise, they've never done it, that you're shot in the first 10, 15 minutes. You've lost your legs. If you can't get up and you're paddling your ring out and you're balancing, and you lose all your energy, and that's it. You can't get up, because like how many starts are you good for when you're learning? Like 10, 15, 20. That's about it, if that.
Not even
No,
10.
10. It's like it's so taxing. So the board again. It sort of dropped off here, probably about, I don't know, a year and a half ago, it dropped off. And I said, oh, good riddance. And because I was winging, it was probably 2 years ago. I said, because I was winging and then I started foil driving. But now it's come back with vengeance. And it's I must admit, it's really attractive to watch, especially you guys, Zane and all that. It's I don't know, like you're on big boards and that. I'm only on a 5 foot board, but it's just the skill set and the way you guys read the waves and you connect is just amazing. And I'd love to do one of the Hawaiian races. It must be fantastic over there. Is it that much more powerful and different to here?
No, to be honest, no. Like, I think on the east coast of Australia, we have conditions that are just as challenging as any of those Channel Island crossings that they do over in
Yeah,
Hawaii. Definitely, like the Molokai to Oahu, the famous one.
yeah,
That's the most challenging one I've experienced out of all the island crossings there. But I wouldn't say it's any more uh, any more advanced than some of the hard days that we get here at home. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I've had some absolute shockers. Hey, just like like just, and I couldn't come in. It was just I bit off more than I can chew. So the run line actually was like, I cut off all the safety zones and I sort of got to the middle and it was all over, and there was no getting to shore. So I had to make the decision. I couldn't lay down and paddle. So because I did, I was a team rider for JP, so I've got pretty good sup skills. So, but I just couldn't get up, and so I just had to stand up and just tap my way in for like the last like 5K. It was just murder, and I got
Oh.
in. I got in at night time. Hey, and got up, walked up the beach, and threw up, and it was just like, yeah, that was like I said. I love sup foil downwinding. Yeah, like shove that up your ass. And then, but you just watch you guys, it's insane. Like, when I go out from Guy from Surf FX, we got a video when he first got on that Frank board. And then I'm out in the forward drive, like I tow him out on the forward drive. And then, and I was just sitting there and I just go, I said, I'll wait for him to try and start. And then I'll get up on the forward drive. And he just stood up and he didn't even leave the entrance to the seaway. So it's still really choppy, really spiky. And 2 strokes and he was gone. And I've just gone, wow.
Wow.
So things change, haven't they? So,
Hmm.
and you watch did you do that last downwind race, the one that went for about 15 minutes? I think the guy from Cloud ended up winning it. Did you do that one?
I'm trying
Who
to
was
think
that
which
one?
one.
Anyway, it showed the start, and it just showed how fast everyone was. And if you didn't get up in the first few strokes, everyone was just gone.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's the other thing that's put me off it is like I go, okay, so I get the skill set so I can get up and get going all that. Now you have one fall, it's hundreds of meters. You have 2 falls, it's like you have 3 falls, you're last. You know, it's you're not only now you have to be really good and fast at getting up and fast and efficient, but you also can't crash because the
Can't
level is
fall.
it's so high. And then like you think about it, we used to try and do it on those GoFoil 280s. Did you ever see that thing? There's like a car bonnet. Um, I can't remember how to name for it. It was massive. And then you got, the Axis 1300 PNG. It's just like, it's again, that's like a car door. And you get up on those things. And then as soon as you got any reasonable amount of speed, you just blow it and you die. So, but you're thinking, I don't know what the square centimeters on those things. Some of them are like over 2,000 square centimeters, and which is insane. And now you guys, what are you on, the 770 or the 680?
Oh, the average foil now when you're racing is about a 650.
That's mental.
It's mental. It's
I
freaking
reckon back
mental.
in the day, rear wings were bigger than that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's just madness, hey. It's
Oh, it's
and it's not
insane.
like and I've only just got down into like the 700 club, and I'm riding the few 600s, and then it's a discipline. I stay on it on the foil drive, and you just somehow improve and get better on them, don't you? Like, and that's obviously what you guys have done. You just slowly come down, down, down. So you wouldn't go up to a bigger one now, would you? Or what
Oh,
would be the
it's definitely, definitely there's still a time and a place for a foil that's big. If there's barely any wind, it's great to be on a big high aspect foil. And then you've
yeah?
just got a lot of pump and glide. Like that new 1250 foil that we just brought out from Code, the biggest R foil,
Oh yeah,
is epic. Like I've pumped 3 kilometers upwind on that. And then I'll come back
wow.
downwind 3 kilometers.
Yeah,
It's
you're
insane.
you're you're part freak, mate. But that's the other thing I want to talk about too, is aspect ratios. So I remember doing some Cabrina reviews, and it had an aspect ratio of 8.9 or 9 point something, and I've just gone, that's insane. That is absolutely insane. Who would have an aspect ratio that high? It's like, wow. Because they used to be in like the fives and sixes, and then
Hmm.
somebody, I don't know, then some foils got over an aspect ratio of 10. What are we up to now? Like 17?
There's definitely. Oh, I don't know what that. I think that momentum is the biggest, the most highest aspect on like that the public can buy.
Yeah.
that I know of. I think you're right. Something where in the 16, maybe
It's
17.
it's
Yeah.
crazy, but what that shows to me is the whole foiling community, like the whole as a group, and even people coming in as a beginner. It was sort of was here. It's actually up here now. So um, everyone's skill set is much higher. Like if I look at I pulled out an Axis 940 Fireball. It's like it's about this wide. It's just mental. It's in the 6.5 or 600s, and you look at some of the small like the Lift 70 and those things. They're just what are they in the 400s or in 400 or something square centimeters. And guys are paddling up and proning it. So it just goes to show the skill set of the community is really raised. And I think also too the advice and from other riders to new people, I think that the teaching's a lot better than what it was, because a lot of people were probably giving out a bad advice at the start. So I think we all got a bit of that from a few different people. Probably giving out some bad advice myself sometimes, but it's just
Now,
evolving so fast.
I think it's great what you provide to the foiling community. You're always uploading super informative videos, whether they're like gear reviews or just teaching people how to be better at foil driving. I think your videos are amazing, and I think a lot of people resonate with them because maybe they're the same age as you, or maybe come from the same background, and I think people love it.
Yeah, well, thanks, mate. Yeah, it's like obviously it's a passion. I love doing it, and obviously that reflects in it all. So yeah, no, yeah, it's good, and it's community too. So I was out at Currumbin yesterday, and a guy messaged me on Facebook Messenger, said I saw you out there, and he said, "Wow, you're going so fast, and you were turning so hard. What floor were you on?" Like people just can, he tracked me down. They obviously going, "Who's that guy?" And they said, "Obviously, it's Rob Pieros." Tracks me on the Facebook, and I'm more than happy to, talk to people and give out some advice and all that, because it's one big happy family, isn't it? It's just a bunch of frothers, just frothing. Everyone loves to
Totally.
froth. Yeah.
I think to wrap it up, I'd love to like you're a wealth of knowledge. I'd love to hear one more kind of tip that you could provide the foil community that you think maybe was a huge one for you that maybe a lot of people don't know.
Well, it's this. A lot of people used to hear about my Von Piros chop shop, and that was the way that came out about was in the early days. Like if you look at the code website now, it just says like 600, 700, 800,000, it goes up like that. In the early days, there was like 2 or 3 foils. So if you wanted a smaller one, you had to cut it. You had to cut it down. You wanted a bigger one, you had to cut it and make it bigger. And but the shimming has been a big thing for me, and rear wings is a huge thing for me. So it's a lot of people who want to pump probably putting on like a bigger, chunkier rear wing. And okay, yes, it might make it easier to give you more lift and to pump, but it actually slows your pump down and slows you down. So a smaller, more efficient rear wing to me is very important. I do not you'll never, ever, ever see me with a big rear wing. And I still, even to this day, I actually chopped your 151, Josh, the R. Didn't work, shouldn't have chopped it. But but I'm still always looking for that. And then so advice from me on the rear wing is you got to shim it. You got to play around with the shimming, and you got to try different rear wings too. Now, mask placement is absolutely paramount. So, prone foilers coming into foil driving, they think because the proning days when you're learning, you move the mask back. So, the difference with a foil drive is you've got the mass of the battery under your mask. So, if you have it all at the back, if you have all that weight at the back, and that means your back foot's got to be at the back when you shut the power off. And so when you're trying to pump, you got your back foot at the back of the board, and I call it the stapler. You're going like that because you can't you can't take the weight off your back foot, because the pumping should be a down motion, not a stapler like that. And if your master's too far back, you can't do that. It also too, when you take your finger off the trigger, the nose of the board will drop down. So by moving the mast forward, closer to your center of gravity, you can only move it so far, then starting becomes too hard. So you've got to please play with your mask placement. So you get it to as far forward as you think you can, and then maybe just nudge it back a little bit. And that's really, really probably the most important piece of advice I could give to people on their foil drives. Other than that, too, is when you're starting, you start, people are driving around like that. You need to just slide your body, just roll forward on your elbows a little bit more. Just give it that extra second or two before you pop up to your knees, because the start's everything, isn't it, Josh? And if you can get your start right, you'll save battery power and you can ride smaller foils. That's what it comes down to. So practice your starts and tune your foil. So like get that rear wing right, and obviously ride the smallest front wing you can, but don't go too small that you can't get up. So what would you be your daily rider, Josh, for your front wing?
So a good rule of thumb that I learned, if you do come from another part of foiling already, is what you would normally use. I always ride a size up, just
Yeah,
because you've got that extra weight from the battery and the unit. And yeah, I mix and match, Rob. You see me the other day when I was foiling with you. I started off on like an 800, and then I went in and grabbed a 980 because it felt like I just didn't have enough foil.
yeah.
So I'm always just riding whatever the conditions I think are best for, and I think that that's something that you only learn from experience. You just have to try a few different foils, and if you're lucky enough to live near a foil shop, demo their foils. I think that's a great, like, you're the king of it. You've ridden every foil that's out there. So I think what you learn from riding all the different foils is probably some of the best lessons that you can learn. And you can start to learn what you like in a foil. Do you like early lift, or do you like a better top end, or do you like a rollier foil? Or
Oh
yeah,
yeah, for like
it's
definitely for me, paramount for me is roll to roll. And there's really no, now all the bad brands have been flushed out. There's really no, like, I said, everyone goes, oh, should I switch to this or should I switch to that? And I said, no, look, you're on, there's nothing wrong with the foils you got, and they do have other foils. So I don't get people to jump brands all the time. But yeah, the roll to roll for me is just paramount. And again, I don't sound like I'm flogging the code horse, but mate, it's just got the best roll to roll out of anything I've ever ridden. And and it's been good riding riding a lot of things too. But you got to be careful what you wish for, because when something new and Surf Effects goes, oh, we want you to ride this, and then it's so different to what I ride, and so you got to be careful what you wish for, because you can actually go backwards in your foiling when you just not settled on your own kit. And I remember one of your Facebook memories came up, and it was from I don't know, it was years ago, but it was me on a small Neil Pride, and it was my first ever like 400-meter ride, and I had a video of it. It's the first time I started using my 360 camera. And I looked at it, and I was watching the video, and it came up on Facebook. I said, wow, I said, you're actually foiling really well. And I've just gone, I don't think you're foiling like that now. And then as I was watching it, my mate Marty Carter just goes, what happened? He was watching the same video. So it's you do
far
have your
out.
ups, and
Should
yeah,
try find that Neil Pride.
I oh mate,
Yeah,
it was
find that
such an
foil again.
old
It sounds
fashioned
like you're
foiler.
ripping on it.
Oh mate, it was just I looked at it, and it was just crazy, hey. And that's back in my prone days, mate. And, I had some like 5-6 hour days in the water proning, paddling. I was just a
Animal.
beast paddling, mate. I was just a
Animal.
machine. But that's probably why I tore up both my shoulders. I just used to,
Oh,
yeah, mate. I used to come home, and I was just, I'd come home like at lunchtime. I'd been there since dawn, and then my wife was out, the kids are out. I just have something to eat and drink, and I just crawl into bed and fall asleep. I was just so dead, It's just, and I just go in and go one more, like, and then another mate of mine, Bo O'Brien, like, pump, and we just try we have our Apple Watches on. He said, I just did a 1.1 kilometre. So you just go, like, the wave zone was completely gone at about 800 metres, and you just pump it. You're just trying to, everything. You're just trying to get further and further and further. So it was, those early days were good, hey, like getting all those big long runs. I'd sort of, No, I don't miss it. I don't miss paddling. But I had I've done a lot of testing for Paul, and I had a couple of mishaps in the river. So I had a couple of big paddles a few weeks back. I paddling, and then I was in the main river, and stupidly, like I was testing out some new gear, which was probably going to fail, and I should have gone upstream, but I went downstream. So you had an 800-meter paddle home against the current in a bull shark infested river, mate. So it was just 2 days in a row. So yeah, but anyway, so yeah, but it's still good fun. It's still good fun prone foiling, and like I said, I'll paddle again on the sup, and just sort of go from there. But all of it, it's relevant now to me. So again, like mast placement, the foils, the shimming, everything like that, and fuse length as well. Like I'm not, I don't want to say anything adverse about sort of Armstrong, but you can go down the rabbit hole of shimming to death of everything. But now I've been watching on Facebook and all that about all the America's Cup and all the boats and all the foils and the way they position the crew and all the tuning and everything like that. It's just fascinating. If you're a foiler, just get into it. Now I understand Armstrong a lot more because Army's they're all his mates, and now I understand. Like he's set his foils up to this nth degree, and they need tuning. To every individual person, every board. So again, you just don't put a foil on, bolt it on, and then not try anything different. It's like when you used to race boats. People used to buy it, they wouldn't try a different race propeller. You could sometimes get another 4 or 5 miles an hour just by changing your prop. So it's the same with the foils. So you need to always don't be complacent. And then back in my prone days, like I used to just foil tools in my pocket, and I'd be constantly moving the mast, or I'd have little washers, and I'd just be packing the rear wing, negative, positive, sort of things like that. But now, again with the code, I pretty much I shim nothing. So it all just bolts on and away I go. So I generally use the medium fuse in the middle. If I downwind, I'll sort of go to the long, and the short doesn't get used much, but I'll just put it on for a change every now and then. I've lost my medium, so I'm going to probably go to go to the short now.
Oh, classic. Well, thank you so much, Rob, for your time. I think that also leads to a really good point where you can get a lot of this information. Foil Drive have a really good Facebook owners group. I know you're on there and you're always helping crew with questions. It's I'm on there too, and everyone from the Foil Drive company is on there too. So it's just like a really nice space for people to ask each other and help each other with questions and exactly what you said, tuning, or if someone's got a foil and they don't know how to set it up and someone else has the same foil, they'll connect that way. Or it's also a really good place to connect with people if you're from an area and you want to meet another foil drive person. Like it's a really nice community on that Facebook group. So if you haven't checked that out yet, check it out. It's on Facebook. And I think that's it, Piros. Thank you so much for your time. Mate. It's been so interesting hearing your stories. I feel like I could just have a beer and sit with you all night and just keep listening to this. This is great.
Yeah, mate.
But we'll have to get you on again. I know that you're planning on going to Hood River, so it'll be really cool to get a recap of Hood River from you. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of stuff in between now and then. So we'll keep in touch and love to see what you're up to next.
All right, mate. No worries. You.
All right, mate. See you soon. Bye.
See you, mate. Bye.